Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. So we get to do something neat tonight because I'm running this until Lucas gets done pontificating to the Grand Rapids City Council. We're actually on time. Welcome to Brewing Controversy. I am David. My co-host Lucas, like I mentioned, is currently otherwise engaged. Hopefully he'll join us here in a little bit. For those of you who have never tuned in, we are a couple of guys who, during the pandemic, shared each other's quarantine bubbles and started drinking and talking politics. And then we started filming it because we thought it would be fun. And then we just kept on doing that, except we, added banners and stuff and made it pretty and invited all of you to join us on a regular basis every Tuesday here at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, right in the middle of your all's wonderful dinner. That way we can have this wonderful dinner side chat thing. I don't know if you all eat dinner. Maybe you all don't. Maybe the recession has finally hit you all, and we're already to the point. You're already to the point of starvation. At which point, this is exactly the show for you, because most of the time we are going to talk about things from a slightly leftist bent. Depends on which topic it is, which one of us is more leftist. But yeah, so it is my pleasure to have everyone here today. If you are here, go ahead and say hello in the comments. We're more than happy to hear from you. We're excited to hear from you. And I apologize if I'm doing this a little bit weird today because Lucas has an entire setup designed to automate most of this banner switching. I do not have that because it is not my job. So forgive me if I am a little slow with some stuff. But yeah, we are very happy to have all you here. So again, for those of you who've never been here before, we like to start off with a little thing we call hot takes. Assuming I can find that. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. Wait, no. Oh. See, this is the problem when I'm running things. Everything gets messed up. There we go. Ha ha! I found it. I'm special. So we've got a couple of things for our hot takes this evening. The first of which is going to be because I've got to mention it because it's come up recently. Washington Post did an article or had an op-ed earlier this week, and NPR likewise did a little segment on some things that are happening with the Supreme Court. And those of you who know, I have a law background, so these are things that really, as a professor used to use as an epithet, frosts my pumpkin. So this, I'll start with the op-ed because I feel like I need to come at this from the other side. And the op-ed is actually this leftist critique that we need to strip the court of its power. Now, again, me and Lucas are normally lefty sorts of folks. We normally would prefer to argue things from arguably, at least in America, a leftist point of view. This is a stupid idea. And I'm going to break it down real quick why. So when the framers designed the Constitution, right, they broke up government into 3 separate branches. And again, this op-ed tries to make the case that the court isn't really a proper branch. And arguably, you could say that these days, right, with how the Republicans have treated appointments to the court. Instead of being based on merit, it's based upon political ideology, right, on whether or not you share their very narrow, very radical point of view on the law. And That's not good, right? It's not been helpful. But when the framers designed the Constitution, right, they split it up, and Congress is supposed to be the voice of the people, right? There's compromises that happen in there. The Senate is an obvious compromise. There's all sorts of compromises that happen in there. But generally speaking, it's supposed to be the elected voice of the people. The president. Now, this is where things get funny for people. So the president is supposed to be the state, the embodiment of the state. And I know most people wouldn't think about that, think of the president like that. But if you look at the examples of what they were pulling from, the president in the Constitution is the head of both government and state. They are an elected king. We set up an elected king with a term limit. Well, and we didn't actually officially put a term limit in until later. But we set up an elected king. We set up an emperor. And that makes sense coming from where the founders were coming from, right? About how governments were supposed to be led. The president is the representation of state. So you have Congress being the representation of people, the president being the representation of state, and then you have the courts, right? And the courts are the representation of law. They are the representation of an overarching control over the actions of everything that needs to happen within that system. Now, the problem is that Republicans have consistently denigrated that purpose. They don't believe that's a real purpose, which the stupid part is for a group of people who want to claim that they're originalists and they're speaking to the original intent of the law. Man, this is now more than 2,000-year heritage of the law being something separate from the state and government. That there is a body of traditions that are enshrined to protect everyone, to provide stability. Even if a government falls, the law remains. Is sort of the idea, is that this is a thing separate and outside of government and the state. The state is bound by the law. The government is bound by the law. Everyone is bound by these laws. We can change these laws if we have to, but it's supposed to be a rather complex and slow process by which this occurs. But generally speaking, the law is separate. And going ahead and acknowledging the neutering of the law in America is not a true leftist position. And I've seen this other places and people arguing, well, the way we'll fix this is we'll just neuter the court. Am I in favor of packing the court? Yes. I think the only way to solve the problems with the court is if we escalate this fight with conservatives about, no, if you all are going to pack the court with yours, we're going to pack the court with ours, and we can continue this arms race, or we can agree to make the court neutral again. And I think, for most conservatives, I think that they will move to back away. Oops, see, screwing up all on my own. Back away from that fight and go ahead and make the court neutral again. But in the meantime, one of the main problems that we're about to be having is the radicalization of the court, at least on the right, is causing problems. And that's because we're about to have a decision on West Virginia versus the EPA. This is probably one of the most important cases in U.S. history. And no one's talking about it because it's an incredibly boring topic that could ultimately unravel the goddamn republic. So, West Virginia versus the EPA. There exists in America this really cool system by which Congress can look at its ancillary branches, agencies, the EPA, the FBI, the SEC, the IRS. And Congress says, listen, we could spend literally the entirety of eternity doing nothing but just writing the minutia of tax law, or writing the minutia of uh, financial services law, or writing the minutia of environmental law. Here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to paint out some broad strokes, and these are going to be your guidelines, and then we're going to let you all figure out the minutia. And what you say will be law. And that's how we've run the United States for basically the past 150 years, right? Congress paints a broad brush and then gives power to an agency to say, okay, now go make whatever minor rules you need to make in between these lines to make this work. It's kind of funny. They're going after the EPA, but and these conservatives are. I don't think they realize in the same stroke, if they neuter the EPA in the administrative state with this court case, they're also going to neuter ICE. ICE will have no idea what the hell to do because they won't be able to make rules and regulations anymore. Their administrative judges that they have sitting that are supposed to hear asylum cases, they all go away. They all have to be heard before a law judge now. And they can't deport them in the meantime because that's what the law says. Right? All of Trump's little administrative rulings that he got that says, oh, well, we can deport you back to your home country and wait for you to have your administrative court hearing. No. That goes away. No more administrative state. This is insanity. We rely on the administrative state to run our country. And I look at this and I see it as an example of conservatives, instead of wanting to make things better, wanting to just break them and use it to show that government isn't working. Instead of saying, okay, well, if you think something's not working, we should fix it. Well, how do I do that? Well, you actually have to use forethought and a little bit of compromise, and we can get this done. No, they just want to burn it all down. So here's hoping that the conservatives on the bench decide to slow their roll on this one, because if they find against the EPA and saying that EPA doesn't have that, because Congress didn't make the law, Congress told the EPA they could make the law within these guidelines, we could be seriously screwed here, like big time. Huge. I mean, the level of economic disruption that would occur from this ruling is monumental. Forget recession. We're talking about the balkanization of the entire U.S. economy, because now Congress has to sit there and pass laws to assert its authority under the Commerce Clause over everything. You thought the EPA and the IRS making laws was twitchy and I don't like it? Wait till Congress gets a hold of it, man. You're screwed. Oh, well, I don't like it. Well, what's the alternative? I mean, I'm not a big, asparagus and broccoli guy. I have to cook the hell out of those things. Because I like meat and potatoes, but I understand I need to eat my greens, right? The alternative to me not eating my greens is, vitamin deficiency, illness, bad digestion, all sorts of things. So the question I have to ask myself is, do I eat my greens, even though I don't necessarily like it? Or do I not eat my greens and then have a bunch of other problems? I'm going to eat the fucking greens, because the alternative is worse. I actually sit there and think, this is obviously something that conservatives are not super great at doing, is sitting there and thinking, what's the alternative to this? Well, in their world, it's fucking unicorn farts and everyone gets, a puppy. I don't know what these people are thinking honestly in their head. It makes no sense. Um, it, it's terrible. Uh, which, speaking of people who really hate, oh, it's time for one of my favorite things on earth. Speaking of people who really hate regulations and don't have an alternative to them, it's time for me to get my hate on. Because I really hate Musk. So this week, Musk managed to get into the news twice, three times really. First time is, again, where's that money for Twitter? Elon, baby, where's the money? Where's the the interest rates went up. The stock that you're going to use as collateral went down. You're just a lying piece of shit. Okay. Who wanted to get on the news? Thank you, Elon, fucker. But on top of it, now 1 out of 2 Musk offspring also desire to tell Elon to fuck off. Musk's transgender daughter has asked the court to legally change her name so she doesn't have to have that name stuck at the end of hers. And I applaud her. Just well done, sister. Well done. Which, I mean, if I was Musk kid, I wouldn't want to be associated with this guy because he made this whole statement this week about, well, the reason I don't want to pay taxes is because I want to save human consciousness by getting us to Mars. And some of you may have heard me make this speech before, but you know what? It's that time to make it again. Mars is a dead world. Musk is a bad engineer. He's a con man and a liar. You can't colonize Mars. Here's the thing. Earth has this really big, giant iron magnet at its core, which protects us from radiation. It also is dense enough that it gives us a gravity that we're all familiar with, of 1g. It's nice. It's a nice gravity. Could be heavier, could be lighter. Mars has a dead nickel core at its heart, which is no longer spinning, which means it has no magnetosphere. It has no way to protect anyone on the surface from radiation. It also doesn't provide one gravity. So here's the thing. If you wanted to live long-term on Mars, number 1, you are going to get cancer. Number 2, if you grew up there, you will likely be sterile from the radiation. Number 3, you will never be able to leave the confines of a barely survivable habitat because there will be no way for you to operate consistently on the surface. And then on top of that, let's say you want to have kids, there's a low likelihood that any children would survive. Mars is at best a trash dump, a strip mine, or a very short-term lifeboat. So this entire idea that Mars is going to save us all by getting us to Mars, all these ideas of, we're going to go colonize Mars and save ourselves, that can't happen. That doesn't work. Mars is dead. Musk is selling you a line of bullshit. You cannot go colonize Mars. You cannot survive. Human life cannot survive on Mars, even with assistance. All right? It's just not possible. I mean, we would have to genetically engineer ourselves to lower gravity. And I have I don't think anyone here knows what that would even begin to look like or what sort of the implications of that would be. So your kids, and I will say this, actually, Netflix did do a movie contemplating that very idea, except it was colonizing Titan. And they became inhuman beasts, completely foreign to what we would understand as human. So you're going to go save human consciousness by destroying it and getting it to. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. He's a con man. He sells nothing but bullshit, and I fucking hate him. I hate him so much. Oh, this is gonna be another good one. So you have one con man in Musk, and then you have king of plutocrats and another in the form of Jeff Bezos. Amazon, a confidential Amazon memo got leaked this week, stating that Amazon now has a problem. In the places where it's set itself up, there's no longer anyone to hire. There's no more people who will work at a wage that under Amazon's current business model of constant expansion, like they're the fucking Romulan Star Empire. There's no one left. There's no other businesses for them to sign on at a reasonable price. There's no other employees for them to hire at a reasonable wage under their business model that works. And so now they're in trouble. To which I respond, there's a good solution to this. We know. We've seen it before. It's time for that do nothing who currently occupies the seat of the Attorney General of the United States of America to pull out the Sherman Antitrust Act. And I don't know, thaw whoever was responsible for the Microsoft antitrust investigations. Yeah, it's time to pull them out of cryo. God knows they haven't been around for the past 20 years. Yeah, it's time. Amazon needs to be considered a monopoly. And the problem is that Amazon has been very clear that it's been leveraging its position, right? Because that's the rule about a monopoly. You're allowed to have a monopoly, right? You just aren't allowed to use it to leverage yourself into another market. So Comcast is guilty of this, or Xfinity, because they're the ones selling cable, and they're trying to make an argument. Well, we're not really a monopoly. In my neighborhood, I can technically get AT&T. I can't get high-speed internet from them or anything that resembles high-speed internet, but yes, I could get AT&T, or I could try and get satellite internet. And then they use that to leverage into the mobile phone market. Amazon has used its status as the penultimate online retailer for everything to leverage itself into all sorts of things, but mainly Amazon Prime. And people have talked about this, and I think we are running up to it, which is that it's time to break up Amazon. Are prices going to go up a little bit? Yeah. Do prices need to go up a little bit? Yeah. Because the people making those products are getting screwed because they have to compete on Amazon under their rules instead of there being genuine competition between manufacturers and vendors. Amazon gets to tell you how much your product is worth, and Amazon also gets to turn around and find another manufacturer to copy your product and then sell it on Amazon Essentials. It's got to stop. Amazon is a monopoly, and we need to break them up. When they get to the point where they can no longer find enough people to hire because their business model has driven the market to that point, it's time to break them up. It's time to have genuine competition in terms of warehouse distribution. It's time to have genuine competition in terms of employment. It's time to have genuine competition in terms of online retailers. I mean, Target tries, Walmart doesn't. Walmart figures you're too poor to have a computer. But we need to seriously take a harder look at what's going on with Amazon. And we also need to take a harder look at what's happening with Garland, because thus far, the man has been completely useless. He hasn't gone after, God knows he hasn't gone after police departments like a lot of us expected he would. He hasn't gone after Trump, even as we have the July 6th hearings going on, and people are looking around going, why isn't Garland charging Trump? Why isn't Garland charging Loudermilk? Why isn't Garland charging Mo Brooks? Why isn't Garland charging any of these people? And he is so determined to defend the honor and integrity of the Department of Justice that he's going to watch it burn down. I think at the end of the day, he doesn't know what to do. I think at the end of the day, he and this is a problem that, that happens sometimes in Washington, is that, you get sent up there, especially if you're already there, which Garland has been, which is not uncommon for political appointees. But you don't want to not be invited to the parties anymore, right? You don't want people to look at you and be like, you prosecuted my friend. Well, yeah, I did, because he broke the fucking law, you bitch. They don't want to have those conversations. They don't want to be there and do that. So, I mean, I is that what's holding Garland back? I don't know. I don't know if that's what's holding him back. But it certainly seems like it, because he's such a do-nothing. He just get in front of a camera and say, yes, I've put our charging documents together. We have an arrest warrant before a judge right now for Donald Trump, or for Mark Meadows, or for Guilfoyle, or Trump Jr., or I'm Eric. Just come on, dude. Speaking of come on, dude. Jesus.
Good evening. It is hot as a motherfucker today. How is it down there?
It's actually not too bad. I mowed the lawn today.
It's currently 93. I think. I'm waiting on my watch to decide to tell me, because for some reason it's decided that the temperature is hyphen. I think it's 93, 94. It fucking blows, especially for Grand Rapids. The second floor of the house, which you and I both share the unique distinction of having office/studio space in the upper floors of our houses, so it's hard as fuck to keep it cool. And we're both big dudes, so we get hot.
I have this thing sitting right next to me.
I have that thing back there, and it's struggling. But I do have my trusty Democrat hanky that I can, keep wiping with. Anyway, I just got back from the city commission meeting. I've been kind of peeking in. Looks like hot take quickies are going great. Good to see everyone online tonight. Boy, did I get loaded up for our main topic. Oh, boy. There's just such fresh stupidity to talk about, David. I can't wait, but we have plenty to do before then. So I'm going to shut the fuck up and let you continue, and I'll chime in, because I let David do all the hot takes tonight. I knew I'd be a little bit behind. Olivia, kiss my ass, 60 and breezy in New England. I am hoping to visit in about a month to New Hampshire again, so maybe I can enjoy some of that shit, or maybe it'll just turn hot there right when I show up.
Well, honestly, you got here I got through all my hot takes, so you know what time it is.
Oh, yeah?
You know what time it is.
What time is it? It's beer time.
It is beer time.
So we promised this last time, and since I'm here, I can do this thing. I hope I don't fuck it up, but there are a couple different ways to play videos that are already pre-recorded. Now, as many of you know, we talked about having a segment that we recorded in Nashville. It was a little bit too long-winded and filled with bloopers and stupidity to make you sit through, so I was able to edit that down to about half of its original size. So our first beer in a break tonight is the Good Island. That's amazing. Isn't it cool?
I didn't want to correct you. I just wanted to make fun of you when I put it up.
Yeah, great. Thanks, David. Good quality control. Goose Island, Bourbon County Stout. 2018 proprietors. That's the one that I teased last time. So we get to kick back and just drink whatever the hell we're drinking while we watch you watch us. I'm going to do this crazy thing that they allow you to do, which is to share a video file into the broadcast, which will give us a higher quality segment.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering how you expected me to do that. I'm like, I don't have the video.
Well, no, the video is loaded up in low res quality because it has to be small, but I can play the full one now that I'm here. And I was really glad that I got here just in time, because I don't like for the already shit quality that Facebook and YouTube are going to apply to this. So let's see what happens. Here we go. Years ago, I fell in love with the Bourbon County Stout. Now, Bourbon County Stout's really hard to get. It comes out in sort of wide-ish distribution in only the one main variety, and a lot of the other stuff is harder to find if you're further away from the market.
I cannot explain to you, all of you who are watching right now, how proud he is of this shit. It's literally disgusting.
Well, we've been spending hours trying to figure out, do we go back to your house and film it, or do we film this in a public location? But the problem was I didn't want to like not do it justice. This bottle is a $40 bottle. It's kind of middle of the road. But I asked them.
What about a $50 one of these? The other.
Well, yeah, but I wasn't here to help you drink that, so I didn't give a shit. Where you could go behind the dumpster and drink that one all by yourself if that's what you want.
I mean,
I wasn't going to go out in the parking lot.
Let's not talk about my preference. I mean, I'm just saying the one behind the Wendy's is best.
So every year they release a proprietors, and this one really attracted my attention. I asked them of all the things I could get just here.
Yeah.
What could I bring? I told them about the show. I told them about the friend that I do the show with that I'm going to drink this with. And if I could bring one of your beers to drink with my buddy David.
You explained how you were going to inflict this on others.
Yes, exactly. So it was first released in 2013. And this version is dark chocolate and 2 types of cocoa nibs, rich and decadent, highlighting a whole range of chocolatey, smooth, silky milk
2 types
flavors.
Of cocoa nibs, by the
way. Deep, earthy chocolate. All right,
yeah.
So these bottles are pretty damn sexy. It's etched in, and it's got the little flag. And I'm a sucker for branding and packaging, and I'm really a fan of these bottles.
I didn't say the label's not doing anything for me. I'm not kidding.
Like it's not pitching what it is.
Well,
to you.
This is nice.
The collectors know what it is.
The etched in part,
yeah, it's
is
old
nice.
School. It's kind of like a classic.
But the label itself is not. I'm not right. I'm like.
Well, I mean, kind of, but there's also a whole series element to it, right? Like they all have a uniformity. Anyway, let's pop this sucker open.
It's not any sort of beer Viagra right there for me. Although it's beer, so it's pretty much the opposite of Viagra.
All right, bring that glass over here. I'll give you the first pour.
Gimme.
And the first time I tried this, it was like, holy shit. I had accidentally stumbled on it on the day of release a few years ago.
Right. So this is very high. I want to point out to everyone when I shit can this, it's because Lucas has talked it up to make it sound like this is the piss of Shangri-La.
No,
right?
Not quite. I mean, my average rating, it's tied in my higher slots, maybe number 1 slot.
And it's got an alcohol nose. Oh, it's chocolate and alcohol.
I'm trying to find the percentage on this sucker.
So the alcohol note doesn't come like in the nose. Like when I smell it, it smells like it wants to almost strip paint. But when I taste it, it's got just a straight dark chocolate flavor to it.
It's very good.
Maybe a little bit of black currant.
Yeah, I can give you that.
Yeah, at the very end, before it devolves into alcohol, black currant would be what I would attribute that to. I gotta give it credit for that because the nose makes it seem like I'm gonna strip paint with this, but the flavor.
Oh yeah, I really think it comes home nicely. I think you're nailing the description there. I don't get as much chocolate out of it as I do the
black currant.
Yeah. This one is a 14.4%. So this is not as high as some of.
But I'm saying like the note, like if I set my nose over it, like the alcohol note is.
Yeah, it's pretty.
We're there.
Out front.
We're there. But it's got a.
I like that it coats the glass.
Does a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
dark and yummy.
It starts out with a very dark chocolate, like almost like baker's chocolate flavor.
Yep. That
at the
checks
front
out.
end, and then it moves to almost a fruity kind of finish,
Mhm.
and then it finishes with that little alcohol bite, which you get in the nose. Like if
it's damn good though. It's right across home plate for me usually, because this should be enjoyed.
Yeah,
with friends and on special occasions like visiting Nashville and being in person.
He's in my studio.
It's really cool, and oh my god! Like I bought 4 different versions of Goose Island's barrel aged product.
Listen to Uncle Moneybags here. So
4 bottles of different price levels, but they came out to like around $100, and it's only because I have
actually not as bad as I thought it'd be.
No. The way I got over 100 was like the T-shirt and the stickers, and like I went all.
I'll be honest. Like
I went fanboy on it.
Given the price list you gave me, I would have easily gotten to 200.
I could have. I chose not to. I chose to remain allowed in my home when I got back from that
trip. Restraint.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is not.
But anyway, Bourbon County Stout, very good. I keep it right up there with my Baroness from Fat Bottom here in Nashville, and my all the breeds of Dragon's Milk from New Holland in Grand Rapids. And by the time you see this, I'll be back in Grand Rapids. We'll be doing the show as normal.
Yep.
But it was really great to be here with you in person for a brief interlude. And now we're going to go drink more of this. That was fun, right?
To point out, in my defense, I'd been drinking for like 4 or 5 hours at that point. So the repetition is literally the fact that I'm like, I've had like half a keg of beer already.
Most of the cuts were good comedic funny shit. I was just trying desperately to get it down. It was a 12-minute total clip. Now we have 30 minutes of total footage because we purposefully just turned on the camera and started recording while we were fucking around.
At least I was definitely like, I had to wake up at 7 a.m. that morning, go to work. I got off at like 4 o'clock and went immediately to where I go on Sunday afternoons, which is Mafioso's, because it's 2 for 1 beer. And Lucas joined me there, and we drank for a while. But obviously, I'd been drinking there before he got there.
Yeah.
So...
and David kept trying to find more inventive and totally low rent places to sit and drink and do this review, including like someone's patio that they had just bust and closed. And he refused the front bench of a clothing store that had been closed since 5 p.m. And
because it looked a little awkward. I'd also like to point out I was being the low rent one. Hold up here. We have different memories of how this worked out.
Well, I think it was Cass. Someone suggested that we just go sit in the van, and I'm like, no, that's a DUI, even if you're parked. So yeah, we eventually elected that I would just put some miles
I should know van. This. So funny story.
Real quick before you do that, Rob, speaking of travel, is now coming to us from California. It's Rob live from California.
What's it like having a team that can win the Super Bowl?
Don't. He spent
neither
the afternoon.
Lucas nor I can claim anything.
He spent the afternoon sending me photos of his views as he arrived into town, reminding me that we need to keep on top of our potential 2023 WrestleMania attendance. Speaking of WrestleMania, we may have to drag Mark out there with us. Mark's here. Hey, Mark, good to see you. Rewatching the hearings, good to know. You didn't miss everything, but you missed some great quality time with David Solo while I was out at the commission meeting. So that was the first beer break. We're going to keep drinking our sidearms, and then we have another beer break, of course, later. But David, you have selected the passionate pet topic of the evening. And I'm going to let you launch in first because It sounds like good shit to talk about.
Right. Especially in light of the hearings. So an interesting thing happened this week in Oteo County, New Mexico. So Oteo County, New Mexico, is a staunchly conservative region. Staunchly. They even have one of the leaders of Cowboys for Trump.
This fucking clown.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
God. I know.
So
I know who you're talking about.
They even have one of those guys as a member of their local election board.
Are you gonna quote him? Are you gonna tell everybody what he said?
Now you know what, Lucas. I'm gonna let you do it because I feel like it'll make you feel better. I didn't load up the quote.
This dumb sack of donkey testicles. His justification for still voting out of the 3 people that he serves, or 3 total people on a board that he serves for elections, 2 of the 3 Republicans, they're all Republicans, they decided, okay, the election fraud is bullshit, and it's been proven that it's legit, and he still stuck it out and still voted not to approve the votes in a local fucking election, the same kinds of elections that they claim elect them. And his reason? I just have a gut feeling and I trust my gut. Oh my fucking God. Are you kidding me? It's not that he said it. It's that 30% of the country fucking gets him and they see him as a spirit animal. And that's the fucking shit that pisses me off.
They see him as a spirit animal. I love that.
I didn't have any idea that I was going to be able to contribute to your topic with such passion. It was supposed to be yours.
Right. Yeah. Oteo County. And just to clarify, this was a Republican primary. And they were upset that the Trump guy didn't win. Yeah, and yeah, that was Mark. You're right. This is the same guy who tweeted the only good Dem is a dead Dem, and they were upset that the constituents of their county did not vote in their primary for the Trumpiest of Trumpers, and so that's why they wanted to invalidate the election.
You know, I was unable to make the beginning of the show tonight. Not because I had remarks to give at the commission meeting, but because I had to wait behind a 20-minute gauntlet of church leaders who have figured out how to play the game, and they got in the front of the line for comments, and one after the other, they spewed religion and theocracy in the chamber about abortion. And I had to wait behind these shitcocks for my time to speak on the, only topic that matters in this city right now, which is prosecuting a murdering cop for second-degree murder. And now that you've made me think of this fucking dimwit, knuckle-dragging shitheel, I feel like I need to go to these 4 guys for some prayer.
Just gonna need a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's this is the real thing that we need to watch out for, and we need to pay attention to this because these people, and I'm going to lean into this just a little bit, and because Lucas Lucas doesn't like it when I bring this up.
Wait a minute, maybe don't lean in. I don't know.
Right, Lucas doesn't like it when I bring this up because it's a really Debbie Downer topic, and it sounds alarmist. Right? It always sounds alarmist. But especially after the what's the name of the fucktard in Missouri? who did his whole "we're going to go kill rhinos" advertisement. Lucas, you use your internet skills. My stuff is out of reach.
You keep talking. I'll go Google shit.
His rhino hunting license. These people are taking over these local election boards so that they can invalidate the lawful election of individuals in their jurisdiction. In Detroit, they tried to do this. In Wayne County is the county that Detroit is in.
So it's former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, which rhymes with
there we
Cretans.
go. I couldn't. I'm like, as soon as
it rhymes with Cretans
former
for
Missouri
a reason.
governor, I'm like, oh, it's Greitens, isn't it? It's Greitens.
Yeah. Today we're going rhino hunting.
So for those of you who haven't seen this ad, it's him with a bunch of conservative militia members in full military garb, pretending like they are about to storm the house of someone they consider a rhino and kill them.
Yeah. You heard him right, folks.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing you have to understand about what they're trying to do here is they're trying to invalidate democracy as a point of, as a flashpoint. And this is something that we really need to start. Yeah, this guy.
This fucking piece of shit. Yep, that guy.
We need to start understanding that what's happening in these local election boards, because this is where they imagine now that they're going to kick off the flashpoint where they can get the civil war that they want. I wasn't going to go in this direction when I proposed this topic like 4 days ago.
You know, you'd be proud. You'd be proud, David. I evoked the 30% of the country wants civil war in my remarks in the council or the commission chamber tonight.
Right.
I coined the term that I'm sure you and I are going to end up arguing about for the rest of the year, which is the cold civil war is already in effect. In my book, we are already in a civil war. The culture war is the cold civil war. If we get a civil war 50 years from now, somebody's history books, assuming this country survives, it might be the one, will call it the cold civil war that came before the civil war.
I mean, like, okay, so it's time for me to.
It's David's time machine.
Right. So we were already having this fight in the last Civil War. We were already having these sorts of conversations in the lead up to the actual Civil War. If it wasn't slavery, it was going to be something else. And many Southerners made that clear, because what was happening in the South at the time, you may notice a similarity from what I'm about to describe. What was happening in the South was that where the original colonists had been mostly yeoman farmers. In other words, I own a farm. I work my farm. And that's why, honestly, that's why people like Jefferson and many founders thought that slavery would die. Right. It's because, well, as these small, landowners continue to spread out, and we grow as a population, slavery will just die off. That's where the thinking was. But the problem is that some people got this smart idea. Hey, I had a good year, and maybe you're tired of farming. So how about you sell me your farm? I'll give you a good price for it. Oh, that doesn't sound so bad. Okay. Now I've got 2 farms. Well, there's not enough of me and my 12 children that my poor wife's uterus is cranked out. I'm going to need some people to help me with this. Get some slaves.
The mistake they made, David.
What?
They looked at their greed and they said, what better than 1 farm? 2 farm. Without looking at their relationship and saying, what better than 1 woman? 2 woman. At least the Mormons would have had the decency to populate that shit their damn selves. Sorry, I had to slip in a Mormon insult since I'm kind of on a Mormon thing.
That's fair. I'll tell you sometime how my family is actually the originator of the Book of Mormon. It's a fun story.
I'm not drunk enough for that.
Right. But no, I mean, and then, okay, I've got 2 farms. I get 3 farms. Now I get 4 farms. And now I have, I'm not landed gentry like Washington or Jefferson, right? I am a corporation into myself of huge plantations churning out tons of cotton.
So you're saying dumbass, short-sighted, greedy, white business over expansion and the need to prop it up with slave labor has way pre-Bezos roots.
Yep. And so, I mean, and the origins of this fight, and I would argue in many ways the origin of the fight that we're having right now, stems in large part from these now massive landowners needing to convince the few, the still remaining yeoman farmers that are out there, well, they're coming to take something from you. When really the issue is that they need power out of the way. They need the federal government. They need Washington to go away so that they can take those other yeomen's farms, right? So they can continue to exercise power as, princelings rather than citizens that also have to deal with the fact that, well, no, that guy next door also has the same amount of vote. So the challenge that we're facing right now is very much the same of, I'm going to create a culture war and I'm going to play it up so that I can continue to abuse my neighbors. And we're right back there, aren't we?
Yeah.
We are right back there. And because if you look at who's funding the culture war, is it is it the guy who owns a bakery? No, he can't donate enough to make this shit.
Right.
Who funds Cowboys for Trump? Someone has to be dumping money into that to give them ad space, to give them signs, to give them staff, to do this stuff.
The current big money slavery iteration that we have in modern labor struggles.
Yeah. So this isn't a Cold War. This is exactly what the lead up to the last Civil War looked like. And again, what was the South's argument? Well, the elections aren't fair because we can't control the House. And the North kept on trying to placate them, saying, okay, well, we'll do these compromises, right? We'll do, if Missouri comes in, then Maine has to come in. So we keep a balance in the Senate. And then we're going to try and be like, well, all right, we'll just let new states decide on their own whether or not they'll be slave or free. And what immediately happened? The South tried to transplant, just like like what's happened in New Hampshire. The South tried to transplant a bunch of slaveholders into Kansas, and a bunch of very adamantly anti-slavery Kansans fought back, and we ended up with bloody Kansas. Well, now we have bloody Washington. We have bloody Texas. We have bloody everywhere. Because, we're going to try. I mean, this is exactly like the lead up to the last Civil War. And it's because they're convinced that they can win it. And the way that they want to spark that is by owning your local election board, right? They want to go in and say, I know you all voted for Biden or a Democrat or even a less nutty Republican.
Whoever else, anyone but Biden that might be.
But I'm going to decide that your vote doesn't count, which, by the way, the South was already doing. Right? But all the way back and again, if we go back to what was happening in the lead up to the last Civil War, the South was already saying, Democratic election of senators? What a silly concept is that? No. Democratic
Hogwash.
Right? Democratic election of actually the people choosing their electors? No. We'll choose the electors. And that's what they want to go back to. Let's kill democracy.
False slates of electors. That sounds eerily like the news cycle right now.
Right? No. This is what they're about.
You mentioned that there is some balance to this. There is some sanity coming from some states. I think you said Maine was not totally swirling the.
Well, so here's what Maine did, and it was
drain.
it's really cool. So there's ways to fix some of these election issues. One of the really cool ways that is being played around with, and it's expanding, and I strongly encourage its expansion. I wish we could get past the first. I wish we can get past the single member district. I think that would help a lot. But how Maine has decided to address the issue is single transferable vote, which basically means it says this. Okay, so if I have 4 people running for an office, right? There's 4 people on the ballot. You choose whoever's first, whoever you like the most. And then you choose whoever you like the second most.
Sounds like
if my first guy doesn't get in, then I'll choose this guy. And if that guy doesn't get in, this is my third choice. It's not my favorite, but
that's ranked choice voting, right?
Yep.
I mean, yeah. As Mark says, it's ranked choice voting. Yeah.
So, but ranked choice can be a lot of different things. Just to point out, the transferable vote is kind of the important thing, because you can rank choice in one method, but the transferable vote says we basically create an instant runoff, right? So not enough people got over 50% with their first choice. So then we go to the second choice, right? So your vote now transfers to the second choice. And that's what Maine is doing right now. And surprisingly, the Democrat won resoundingly, because everyone who wanted to make a point of being like, well, I want to vote for the Green Party candidate, or I want to vote for the Constitutional Party candidate, or I want to vote for, the Looney Tunes, why isn't Captain America real, and why can't I vote for him party? Who is their second choice? Democrat.
Yeah, right.
And there we go.
I think, personally, I think ranked choice should be the way everywhere for everything. I was sold on that, and you're going to hate this. I was sold on that by a liberal-leaning, left-leaning libertarian that I know in Nashville, who I met through a ranked choice voting workshop that took place. I forgot where they held it. Somewhere at Marathon Village one night. In one of the bars.
You know why the libertarian in Nashville was in favor of it?
Because it'd give them a snowball's chance in hell of actually getting votes. Because people
now,
would look at it and be like, who the fuck is this person? Well, they must be better than the fill in the blank Republican Democrat that I would rather not make my second choice. You're right. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It lets them climb phone poles and put weird spray painted campaign signs up everywhere.
Exactly.
Influence people's other choice. Olivia points out Vermont just passed ranked choice for Burlington Municipal and reviewing doing it for federal election positions by 24. I think that's great. Let's see. Adam Conover sold Mark. That's a good sell. That's a good explanation. I want to roll back to something that Mark said a minute ago. He asked, why aren't we talking about Texas's bullshit? And Mark, let me know if I'm wrong about this, but I assume you're talking about Texas's latest bid to secede, and this would be the effort to put a referendum on the 2023 general election for the people of Texas to decide whether or not the state of Texas should reassert its status as an independent nation. So I don't know what the awesome plan that you heard for if Texas leaves, because my awesome plan for if Texas leaves involves, hey, cool people in Austin, get the fuck out. Here come the nukes. But,
there's already been a discussion about Texas. What are you going to do about Austin, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, kind of Galveston? What are you going to do about these? The Republicans, right. What it reminds me of
because that's the problem with this concept, and with your Civil War is coming concept.
Well, and
We're too
because
much of a
they're
Swiss
targeting the
cheese
election
layout.
boards first. They're trying to paint this picture that all elections are that do not elect actual fascists are invalid.
Yeah, right.
And I want to point out that you were talking about, like, what do we do about this? 4 years ago, state of Missouri voted to expand. They put it on a referendum. They voted to expand Medicare. The majority of Missourians said, in a now deep red state, voted to expand Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
They turned around, the legislature turned around and stripped the funding out of Medicare so that they wouldn't have to comply with the referendum. And
so the will of the people means 100% dick.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better. People pointed out, wait a second, we voted for this. And the response from the Missouri legislature was this: rural Missourians didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is part of the insanity of these election boards.
And the insanity of these fucking
it only counts if our supporters agree with it.
Well, and the insanity of these fucking shitheels don't realize that they're all, out there kicking around the dust in their fucking trailer parks in their middle of the fucking woods, goddamn AR-15 fucking bunkers, and they think that they're just rugged individualists that have made it on their own without understanding exactly how much they are pulling down the titties of the cities that keep them from fucking going under every fucking day. We and our taxes and our economies keep them alive, and they just don't get it. So you know what? Fuck them. I like what Olivia said. Mark's detail here. This is interesting. So we let Texas leave. We make DC the 50th state so we don't have to change the flag. Then we invade Texas, take it back, and make it a territory with no representation. I love it. Then we can go there and throw fucking paper towels at them next time some shit happens with a winter ice storm that takes out their power.
Again, well, I mean, and Lucas and I have had this argument, and we are so far afield at this point.
Well, not really. It's the same goddamn concept.
It's the same concept. But personally, I think we only need, when I last did my math, we only need about 32 states.
You've taken this almost as far as my thoughts on reducing the Metro Council in Nashville.
Right. I mean, no, we only need about 32 states. Basically, the general rule should be, even under the current rules, you can't put together 10 representatives. You're too small to be a state. I don't care if you were one of the 13 colonies. I don't care. Delaware, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire,
hate
Maine,
it for you.
Massachusetts. Screw it. You got to merge with whoever's next door.
Well, you know what?
Really weird one though.
If they're smart, the New England Patriots won't have to change their name because they'll just name the goddamn state New England.
New England, right?
Maine will be a little pissed that they don't have bragging rights as the big old dick in the corner anymore. But yeah.
Well, no, the really awkward one is when you start slamming those states together. The only super awkward one is Nevada would have to merge with Utah. Right? Right?
To one side, David, that's a fresh new supply of hookers.
Oh.
To the other side, they just want to know how far underage they can hire those hookers. Bam! I might have pre-gamed before the council meeting or commission meeting tonight, so this is the fourth beer. It's on. So Mark points out, and we've talked about this before, they would lose Social Security, government pensions, military bases, jobs associated with them.
Yeah, I mean, it is the constant issue with conservatives having zero forethought.
Yeah,
they just want to shoot from the cuff.
Oh yeah,
and not think about what happens later. Lucas,
it's the same way they want to be good guys with guns. Like, oh, if shit touches off, I'll just start shooting. Yeah, that's why we don't want.
I don't know if you heard my commentary earlier about the EPA, West Virginia versus EPA case that's now coming up, And again, hey, we're going to dismantle half of the ability of the United States government to function at a pen stroke, and we have no idea what we're going to replace it with.
Yeah. No plan. Fuck it.
Yeah,
Who cares?
I mean, it's absolute insanity.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's just this urge to continue to amp up. And I've talked about this before, but it is an issue that I think we have to acknowledge, which is one of the key elements of fascism, one of the key elements of what's happening in on the bottom rungs of the GQP movement is what's called accelerationism.
Yeah. You've come back to this a few times, and it's worthy of note.
Yeah, accelerationism is the idea that I have to break everything, and once it's broken and it's all burned down and everything's screwed up, then I will remain to rebuild new thing.
Yeah.
It's
a pretty super arrogant.
My camera is even getting angry at me at that level of pumpacity.
It's really a astonishingly arrogant notion. Really, I mean,
yeah, I'm sure I'm echoing really bad because my camera and my mic are both like my internet connection started tweaking out there for a second at that little speech. I think it was very angry at me.
We're probably going to visit this one a few times because right now we're in that election season where a lot of these yahoos are getting in. But I've already started drinking the beer that I'm going to talk about because I just couldn't resist adding more alcohol to cure all the fucking stupidity that I've encountered in the past 3 hours. And it's time to talk about that after we take another round. So, David, who goes first? You want to go first? I feel like this is the beginning of of Star Wars. Who talks first? I talk first. You talk first.
I can do either. Just finished pouring out almost the last of my Einger Bavarian pills.
I dare you to say the full name of their brewery because I'm not.
Private Brewery, Browery, Private. Yeah.
Right. Since I've been playing a lot of Sniper Elite 5, all I know is if I saw that word, I would just shoot at it. That's all I know. Like I'm such a sick fuck Nazi killer in that series of games. Like the mission is complete, but I can still see dots on the map that represent live Nazis, and I must kill them. They've introduced non-lethal rounds. I don't know why. Like it tries to offer me non-lethal rounds. I'm like, no, fuck off. But then I had this thought, if I use the non-lethal rounds, I can knock them unconscious, then walk up and pistol them in the balls instead of the long-distance testicle shot with the rifle. But I'm trying to have the highest amount of eliminating future gene pool if I were truly transported back in time. So yeah, that word would be on like a red sign in the environment. I'd be like, fuck that. But anyway, they make good beer.
It means private brewery. Einger is one of the older breweries in Bavaria. They are a participant in the original Oktoberfest.
Yep, big Oktoberfest standard everywhere.
So again, I am not a Pilsner fan.
That is a big ass glass of Prost you got there.
Yeah,
fuck.
But it goes in the thing. So this, unlike the Urban Chestnut that I had last week, this is obviously very Pilsnery. It is. You can see straight through it.
Yeah. It's like a Budweiser ad, but with culture and dignity. Yeah, I get it.
So this suffers from. Okay, I got it because they basically let me walk out of the store with it for free. So that was a critical element in my decision making.
Please take this Pilsner, sir. Please, it's homeless. It's homeless and needs love.
Well, no, I think primarily. All right, so this is a story. So they tell me these stories.
Uh-oh.
So there's this one guy who's apparently an Einger fanatic who comes to the store.
So they stocked up.
And like apparently they're just like, he comes in and he buys all of it all the time. Like, yeah, obviously, this is a guy with a problem.
He's like
I mean,
Iron Rain Man. He's like, definitely need some pills.
no, I mean,
Bavarian
like
pills.
for those of you who've never seen Band of Brothers, like they make this whole point that one of the characters, Nixon, has this whole problem with Bat 42, right? He has to find Bat 42 whiskey wherever they are in Europe,
Oh my god.
and get Bat 42 whiskey and drink it all the time. This guy is kind of like that. He's like, I am an alcoholic, but I am an alcoholic for one thing, which is Eyinger Pilsner. So
I mean, at least he knows.
right. But apparently he like comes in once a week and gets like 2 cases of it. I mean, like,
Okay.
dude, you've got a problem. And it's very obviously for personal consumption. So
Are you saying that someone that likes Pilsner that much can't possibly have friends, David?
I'm saying I think I'm saying that if you have that many friends all the time that are all drinking Eyinger Pilsner all the time, really,
They're not really your friends. They just like Pilsner.
but what sort of friends are those really at that point? So I mean, it's got this, it's a pill. This is, if I had to pick a Pilsner to drink, and it's not Pilsner Urquell, which again, I swear to God, for those of you who are not familiar with it, Pilsner Urquell is normally held up as like the pinnacle of Pilsners, right? It's this Czech Pilsner. It's what Budweiser is based off of, kind of. There's still a brewery in the Czech Republic called the Budweiser. And they and Budweiser get into fights on a regular basis, at which point they point out, I'm 400 fucking years old. You can go fuck off. It's got that malty front end, and that it's got a little bit of a nutty aftertaste at the end, especially when it's gotten a little warm like it has right now.
How does it compare to your Mama's Little Yellow Pills, which is your like
see, the
go-to
thing is
at
that there's
Mafioso?
ways to treat this that don't end up poorly. So Mama's Little Yellow Pills actually finds the way to hop things,
Mm-hmm.
and in an appreciable way. Or the Zilwickel Pilsner from Urban Chestnut that I had last week.
Yeah.
Again finds a way to say, okay, let's talk about hops and malts and still have it be a Pilsner. I find that European Pilsners just simply, it's easy mode all the damn time. The only thing they're looking for is cleanliness, really. The Reichsfinggeist, which is the purity law, about which sounds really fucking dark when you talk about Germans and purity laws.
Yeah, it does.
Right? But it's the whole thing about all you can add is hops.
Where's the oven that they put the other beer in?
Shit. God damn.
Dude. It's on tonight.
But I mean, it's all you can add is hops, yeast, water, and barley. Is the Bavarian purity beer law.
Yeah.
And it's all about just how you treat them and how you mix them, and how like that defines like your brewery. Is like your strategy about how you combine them. I mean, and that's what this does. Like, I'm sure they have a strategy. I feel like it's better than some. Again, it's not Pilsner Urquell or Bud. Like, and again, the reason I keep on mentioning Pilsner Urquell is because if you've ever opened a bottle of Pilsner Urquell in a closed room, you have never found the desire to open a window as quickly. I mean, I don't care if like your dog farted. Like,
okay,
if your dog farted, like there's a certain level of that's impressive. How the fuck did you manage that? If you open a bottle of this, people are like, oh my God, dear sweet Jesus, what died in the bottle? Why are you drinking that? I'm not trying to eat anything out of my dog's ass, and you're going to take that out of that bottle and then drink whatever's in it. Something's wrong with you.
Jesus.
So I mean, I will say this. Strangely, the level of carbonation from when I bought this yesterday till today, I actually had to get pliers to pry open the lid. I had to dent the lid a little because
and did it deliver in the pour, or did it keep it all in the bottle?
I mean, it delivered in the pour. It definitely delivered in the pour. But again, that's one of the things about Pilsner Urquell is again, like a few seconds ago, it had a massive head, and then it all
and you
vanished.
like fizzy though, so surely that gave you a little bit of a boost.
I mean it, but the thing is, you don't taste the carbonation between the malt and the lack of true hot, like there's nothing in it. The reason we have what we call pale ales and all the rest of this is, first of all, it's a different yeast. An ale is made with a different yeast, but a lager yeast like this uses, right? You can carbonate this straight to fucking hell and it still won't hold the fizz. A ale will hold the fizz. A stout, a porter, an ale, those hold the fizz. Lager yeasts will, it's like they swallow the carbon dioxide. I don't know what I'm sure if I was talking to a genuine brewer, I'm sure they'd be able to explain it to me better about what happens when you use a lager yeast. Because there are some lagers that you can get very good carbonation with, but
we'll have to work on like a science guy segment where we can bounce that shit off of somebody.
Now bring one of your brewer friends on and have them explain what the hell is happening,
right?
With this lager yeast that I don't get any fizz on the tongue. I just get random nuttiness.
I am like probably as opposite your variety as I could be tonight. So I picked up when I picked up that New Holland beer that we tried last week together to bring down to you. I also picked up a 4-pack of the newest Dragon's Milk Reserve from New Holland, the Maple Bourbon Barrel Stout.
I was bragging. By the way, I was bragging. They apparently we're getting a keg of, at least Red's is the stuff that we had last week.
The Level Up?
Yeah, Red's is getting a keg of Level Up.
Really? That's impressive.
Right? And they were like, "Oh God, you gotta try it." I'm like, I have bad like we're the first ones in Tennessee to get it. And I'm like, I have bad news.
It sucked to be you. But that's cool though, because it was really good.
On the other hand, so I made a joke, even as I'm exiting, ML Rose. ML Rose has such an outsized impact on the Nashville beer economy.
Yeah.
They're setting up this system where they want to have people tour breweries for the beer council, right? To sort of let breweries show off a little bit more for us.
Yeah.
I definitely put Hop and Frog on there because no one gets to go to Hop and Frog. No one gets to go to Hop and Frog. No one. They're great. Somewhere in fucking Ohio. I don't know where the fuck they are. Lucas doesn't know where the fuck they are. They don't just seem to distribute anything.
All right. This is the guy. I finally learned to be local. I did not pre-order this Dragon's Milk Reserve. I pre-ordered a bunch of others. We've driven up here from Nashville to pick up pre-orders before. This one I allowed myself to just wander in the store and pick it up. This one is so periodically, usually 3 or 4 times a year, they do a Dragon's Milk Reserve, which is based on the Dragon's Milk Bourbon Barrel Stout. So this is a maple bourbon barrel stout with Vietnamese cinnamon. And the neat thing about it, I mean, of course, it's, like I said, it's the opposite of what you had. It is black as hail. So You
I
cannot.
I can put this up and you can see straight through.
Yeah, no. This one is the night, but it's very tasty. I started sipping on it a little bit before we got to this point. What's interesting to me is that its first description is maple bourbon barrel, but what hits me is the cinnamon first. I would almost have called it cinnamon bourbon barrel with maple, but it's yummy. It has a to me, it reminds me, and this sounds like an insult to the flavor. It reminds me of when I have cinnamon Eggos and I drench them in honey. It's got kind of a cinnamon waffle, very sweet, but then it gives into that bitter chocolatiness that the stout and the bourbon are going to bring to it. So, I have yet to meet a dragon's milk that I hated. I've met a dragon's milk that I didn't like very much, that being the white stout. That was fine, but I didn't really like it. But these, they haven't gone wrong. They haven't done me dirty yet on a limited release with the reserve, and this one's no exception. So currently, yeah, there's plenty of if you go to a New Holland location, you can get real dark. Next week, speaking of going to locations, we went to some new spots. People that follow me in Instagram land would have seen me talk about finding a church that I can attend. So next week, I intend to talk about the Beer Church Brewery that I discovered.
First you scared me there for a second, and then it made sense. So I was about to be like, Lucas doesn't go to church. Lucas would ignite.
But I found one. So
the only reason Lucas could walk into my church is because I'd say a prayer or something beforehand to keep
right.
Him
Yeah.
Start throwing holy
the closest
water
to church I get is like when I got into this room earlier, sweating like a whore in church. That's the closest I get. So now it's time for the big one. It's time for the big discussion. Yeah, it's time.
And by the way, we apologize that we are so over time.
Well, I mean, so far we're all right. I don't know. I mean, we could talk about stupidity in local government forever, but we've got a lot of examples.
I really want to talk about Uvalde a bunch.
Yeah, that's the first one. I want you to roll with that. Well, actually, you know what? Let me recap real quick what I had to sit through tonight. It is expected that local governments are going to be only so talented, only so good. But what was interesting is tonight, one of the one public hearing planned in the Grand Rapids City Commission meeting was a hearing about some kind of, I would have to read more to understand the full breadth, but some kind of stormwater drainage situation in one specific space, in one specific tiny corner of this mid-market Midwestern city, where there is a lot of drainage that's just not working out. A lot of people are having water collecting, and the solution has been that there would be an assessment of a fee to be shared by all the neighbors for a fix to this that would involve some engineering projects and stuff. And I was pleasantly surprised that a wall of mostly gray-haired white people came to resist. And it quickly became obvious that, first of all, these poor fucking people are going to get victimized by stupid fucking engineering choices in the past by the city of Grand Rapids. Some other fucking boob made some mistakes, and these people are going to end up like one of them was assessed $9,000 as their share of the assessment for the project. There's another for $5,000, another for $3,000, and these were presented as fees, not tax over time, but hey, we're doing this. This year you got to pay up an extra $9,000 in your property taxes. And a lot of them asked some really important fucking questions like, A, how come there aren't more storm drains? Isn't that your problem? Not us, the property owner. And then the golden fucking question, how come the church at the top of the hill with the giant parking lot and no drainage isn't being assessed for all this shit? Because clearly their water is running off to all of us. That caused me, after one of the speakers, to cough speak, tax the church, really loud, and I got the naughty teacher gaze from our mayor. And
Well, I mean,
it just brings to the forefront the fact that these fucking churches should be paying their fair fucking share, because what's really happening to these neighbors is the church is causing a problem for these people, and the city of Grand Rapids has piss poor engineered it. And this is the most arrogant engineer havinist fucking town I've ever seen. I grew up in Rutherford County. I saw a bunch of yokel dumb fucks try to defend some real stupid fucking decisions, and I saw Nashville get real big for its britches. But this city has engineers that cannot admit that they are fucking wrong, ever. And there were a lot of white people,
because you know how you end up
property
wrong.
owners lined up to protest.
You know how you end up wrong as an engineer. You know how you end up wrong as an engineer.
You get another engineer to look at it? I don't know.
You're lazy. You're just that fucking lazy, right, or bad at your job.
Well, and actually, honestly, the lazy and bad at your job, those things came up because one of the city engineer guy came up to have to answer a bunch of the questions the citizens had, and then he had to get another guy to answer some more specific questions. And that guy actually said, when the mayor asked, well, what if we revisit some of these other ideas? That guy said, well, if that's the case, we're back to the drawing board, and I really don't have any answers. To which I muttered under my breath, to the amusement of many around me, sounds like you need to get working on those other answers, bucko.
I mean, that's the problem. Is engineering is math. It's math. If you do something wrong in engineering, it's because you either screwed up the math or you were lazy. One or the other.
Yeah. Well, a whole lot of people also wanted to know why the commercial properties nearby weren't being dragged into this. I mean, it's very obvious that giant parking lots cause this problem.
And I want to talk to the church thing real fast. If your church provides benefit,
I was going to ask you if the churches don't have any tax liability to the city.
They have zero tax liability.
Horse shit.
If your church provides benefit to its community, in other words, hey, we have a soup kitchen. Hey, we do public service. That has monetary value. In other words, you obviously had to spend money to do that, right? So if you're besides paying your employees, just like any other business, if you're donating the majority of your money back to the community in the form of public service, you shouldn't have a tax liability. If, however, you're like these mega churches or a lot of these other churches who are like, oh, I'm gonna buy a plane, that needs to be taxed. So if you're a church here's the thing. If I was the church, I'd say, oh, well, if our parking lot needs improvement, then I need to find the donations to address that from my congregation.
Well, here's what I want to provide public benefit. Could the city provide pressure on them in some way? I wonder. Like, yeah, they can't make them pay the tax thing, but could they find them factually responsible and pressure them until they did raise the money to pay for that shit?
They can seal off the parking lot and do that.
Oh, like refuse them a transition to the city street?
Yep.
That would be fucking beautiful. But this city is a long way from having the balls for that kind of shit.
I'm just saying, like I went to Christ Church Cathedral, right? And all our money, every last fucking dime, either went into maintaining a national historical landmark, right? Of one of the oldest churches in America.
Yeah.
Providing, paying a lot of money to provide opportunities for its congregants to have, who normally could not afford such a thing, to have opportunities such as I got to go to Bolivia, I got to go to Ireland, I got to go to all these sorts of places on the church's dime without having to pay any money other than what I brought with me for other shit. But the thing is, they would raise money in smart ways. Like Christ Church Cathedral is right across the street from Predator Stadium, right, from the Bridgestone Arena.
Yeah.
Right. So they'd sell parking at $5.
Oh, yeah.
I volunteered multiple times to sit there and be a parking lot attendant.
$5.
Right? We filled up quick.
$5. Oh, that was retro of you. Woo.
No, I mean they still only charge $5.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. They could get $40 for that shit.
On the other hand, wow. Like the thing of it is like from the money they brought in, there's soup kitchens, there's right. I don't envy our clergy simply because they always have one of the problems that our clergy has is that they always have to be someplace else to go volunteer for some shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they're at soup kitchens, they're at homeless shelters, they're at abused women's shelters all the time.
Yeah.
That's where they are. So like it's a 60, 70 hour per week job for a lot of these guys.
Tonight was the first night in all the months that I've been attending Grand Rapids Commission meetings that the mayor actually did a really good job articulating the rules in the chamber. And you and I have discussed this offline because I've had a lot of constitutional questions about the rules and how they enforce it and what they allow and disallow. And this was the first night that she actually like bothered to educate the people. And I addressed that in my remarks. I pointed out to them, it's not fair that you're the educator about how civics works, but since the right wing has made damn sure that we've eliminated civics from the schools, it's your problem now. So,
I'm pretty sure Robert's Rules of Order are not something that are typically even taught in most civics classes.
Well, no, but the fact that you could have a city within a county where the powers of the city officials come to an end and they can do nothing more but stand with their dicks in the wind and wait for the county prosecutor to charge the murdering cop, those things exist. Well, and they've done a shit job of explaining them.
Well,
until tonight.
The fact that we still have county governments that are not granted, I grew up in a metropolitan county.
Right.
I can't imagine why anyone would live in anything different.
Hey. I understand your meaning, but I would say the majority of America is not metropolitan county.
Any separation between your fucking village and your county? It's not enough distance.
I mean, you would do it because you're podunk, but also most of America is podunk, unfortunately, in that regard. And speaking of podunk, to get to the main thrust, Uvalde, we came across this topic kind of because and speaking of meeting procedures, I'm still blown away that this even fucking happened. But you're the law guy. Give people a rundown on what occurred in Uvalde, because I'm still astounded that it could even be a thing. I thought we had open meetings laws in this country, but
unless it's a state law that cities have to have open meetings, or a county law that they have to have open meetings, the city gets to set the rules. And yes, they get to throw the press out if they want to. I mean, the main thing that's concerning me right now in Uvalde, and there's two theories that are present, both of which I think might have equal validity of why Uvalde is being so cagey about this entire thing.
Well, let's explain. They shut people out.
Oh yeah,
of a public meeting.
Yep.
To discuss with the cops the shit that went down. They made media and guests leave.
Yep.
Which is one of the single most third world dictator fucking moves that I've seen executed in the United States in a long goddamn time.
Wait, do you not remember when the Tennessee legislature closed its doors for tax hearings?
I do remember that.
Yeah,
I don't remember when, but these fucking clowns did this, and the claim from, of all people, they made the fire marshal stand there and run people off, which I thought was a pussy move. Like, get your cops. Get your actual cops. But it turns out one of the cops is probably the pussy behind the whole thing, because the fire marshal was referencing someone feels intimidated. What the fuck?
So
But
here's
you know what? These are the same cops that couldn't be bothered to go save fucking kids for an hour. So I guess they are fucking.
No, I mean,
pussies.
well, here are the two operational theories that are in play about what happened in Uvalde and what and what's and this goes into local governance. The two operational theories that are happening in Uvalde is one of two things may have happened. Option number one: there were kids that were still alive when the cops busted in, and they're pulling AR rounds out of kids, and not all of them are the killers.
Aha.
Because, oh, well, these kids bled out. Well, if you shoot a kid in the heart of the head, bleeding out isn't what killed them, is it?
Hmm. So I'm on the fence whether I consider that a cover up or trying to let down the families and community easy. But
Well,
I still think transparency is key.
I mean, it's a cover up at that point, because at that point, the city of Uvalde is blatantly liable for you ran into a building shooting blindly and kids died
After waiting for an hour because you're a bunch of fucking pussies.
Yeah. Option number two that's being played around with, and this seems to revolve around the fact that they're being very cagey about the body camera footage, is some of the officers who were present on scene looked at the names of the kids who were in that classroom and said, and forgive me, I am at this point going to use a racial epithet. Why the hell would we go in and risk our lives for well, no, I'm not going to use it because I refuse to use it. Why are we going to go risk our lives for those people? Because they're being very cagey about the body camera footage.
Which is precisely what we would expect, yet still fucking rotten. You'll be glad to know that tonight my remarks included a quip about the police protecting the people, followed by a snark that stated, I think we all learned who the police really want to protect in Texas recently. Tonight's remarks at the commission were particularly bitey, but deadpan. But I was really proud of it.
The thing of it is that they're being so cagey with the body camera footage. If they're all sitting there discussing with one another how they're going to breach apparently an unlocked classroom, right? They didn't need the keys. Like this whole story about, we need.
All right, David, I'm going to do it for you. You're saying that there might be video footage of them saying it's just a classroom full of wetbacks. What do we care?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We need to see it. And we need to string every one of them up by not both balls, just one of them, because they'll tear off faster that way.
I like your thinking. No, I mean, that seems to be where they're going, because they're obviously terrified of whatever that body camera footage is. So
let's remember, this is all predicated on the concept a few weeks ago that we talked about when I was live from Turner House Brewery.
Yeah,
that everybody's got a police department. So part of this whole problem may be indeed because the school's yokel fuck-offs have their own fucking police department that they don't goddamn need or deserve.
So
as far as anyone can tell, it's where the reject cops go.
One of two things happened. Either they decided at some point that they weren't going to save these kids, and made so for a reason that people would find offensive and would likely burn the fucking city down to the ground for.
Let it burn.
Or they went in and they decided to play cowboy and they killed some of those kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? I think
basically that there's an acknowledgement at some place, on some level, with the Uvalde government. There's some acknowledgement that whatever the fuck happened, and the lead up, whatever the police did was so off the chain wrong that the city's going to burn.
Good. Let it. I have absolutely 100% zero mercy at this point.
Yep.
For any city that reaps the sowing of fucking evil that they're condoning. And people like to say, well, how would you feel if your house was, well, I hope it's not. I hope I can go out there and point out, yo, you've seen me on TV, I'm with you, let's I'll show you where the fucking the commissioners that you hate are. But it's just, it's not surprising. That's the worst part of this, is that it's not shocking. Like, no, I want to sit here and theatrically say, I'm appalled, I am shocked, and I'm not fucking surprised at these ideas. And the sooner we can get these ideas out, the better. And the more that we can repeat these theories until they're forced to give us the facts. Speaking of commissioners, that's actually something that I've advised the one commissioner I actually get along with here. Well, there might be two. One of them engaged with me and seems like a cool guy, but I've got two commissioners in my district, and one of them is a fuck off, and the other one is great. And the one that's great, I've been helping him strategize an arsenal, because I can be nice, or I can be a fucking asshole, and I'm trying to give him a full span of options in case he needs to deploy the asshole. And something that I've encouraged him to do is to preemptively accuse his opponent of sending out these fucking mailers that I keep seeing show up. These ridiculous fucking lies that cherry pick statistics, and I've been working on tracking down who the fuck they are. But I told him, just go ahead and blame these on your opponent. Just go ahead and fucking say it. Say, I don't need to mail out lies to get elected. That's your fucking line. Make your opponent own it. Make him expose whoever the fuck said it. And I think that's what we need to do with these fucking cops. Keep repeating these possibilities until they're forced to come clean on the reality of what happened. And so you might be completely off your rocker, David. You might have two completely fucking moonbat ideas that are completely wrong, but I think we should just repeat that shit until they have to fucking come clean.
I mean, that's the problem. Is you have body cameras right there. All you have to do is show us the footage. That's why we asked for this shit, because we want people. Here's the thing: I don't want to distrust police. I don't want to distrust police.
That's fair. I guess we don't want to, but we kind of have to.
Well,
right?
but here's the thing: I don't want to. So here's the thing: just like, if I were to go out, right? I've had this happen before. If I were to go out with a company credit card and buy something, right? So if they look at the charge, they just see the store. They don't see what I bought.
Yeah. You have to submit a receipt.
I have to come back with? I have to come back with a receipt and the company card.
Right.
Again, it's not like they don't trust me.
As a professional that has to submit expenses and has recently traveled, I can assure you it's a thing. And
right
now, to be fair, I did submit a couple of things, maybe one item that was clear fucking, Grand Rapids International Airport parking, $10. Well, fucking duh. We know what that is just based on the line item in my account. But I subdivide shit. I am so meticulously over the top honest. Like the finance director at my job was like, hey, so you submitted an expense for this, but the receipt is for this much more. And I was like, yeah, I thought this was Goose Island, actually. I said, I thought it would be excessive to have the company pay for what turned out to be a ridiculous amount of beer in 2 flights where everything was a 6-ounce pour. So I only filed the expenses for my food, my lunch. Even though I know we can file an expense for like a drink here or there, I felt like a fucking asshole submitting 48 ounces of fucking beer. So I decided that should be my problem.
Did they clear it?
She said, well, thank you for your honesty. And she paid for the stuff I said that they should pay for, because it's a fucking give and take organization. You're honest. You do your thing. So
shocking in this day and age.
Well, no, not for a small company made up of good people. It's not shocking, but well, like,
no, at least generally speaking, it's shocking.
Probably, but the company I work for happens to be very good about, like, when I asked, because I asked the first time I traveled to the headquarters, I said, hey, what's the deal about expenses? I've been all over the map about expenses. I've been in companies, who I'm referring to, small companies in Nashville, where it's like, party on, Wayne, I'll pay for everything. And I've been with companies who are super nitpicky. You also know who that light blue Corvette buying person might have been. And so, it varies all over the map. And so my boss said, you know what? I like the fact that his explanation was, my old man taught me that people traveling for the company should be comfortable and reasonable things should be expensed. And I was like, oh, cool. He said, so if you want to have a drink with your dinner, go ahead. Fucking A. All right. But 48 ounces of fucking beer after I was done with my commitments, that was too much for me.
That's nice. No.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Olivia submitted expense for a sandwich. She had to drive to the lab a week or so, a day trip, and she was hungry. I love it. And you know what? They better pay for it. But maybe they didn't. Whatever. But no, I'm
you know what? I always this again. We're off topic slightly, but I always appreciate the per diem method. The per diem method. Here's the deal: if you have to go over the per diem, submit an expense report.
Right.
If you don't have to go over the per diem, fuck it.
Yeah.
I gave you a per diem.
That's a good method. And one of the companies I worked for in the past had like $15 for breakfast, $20 for dinner, which I thought was bizarre because I always managed to spend hardly anything on breakfast. So I always came out ahead. But anyway, so you think there's an extremely dark underbelly in what happened in the Uvalde lack of transparency. I just thought it was stupidity, but you opened up a whole fucking can of worms, and they're like little satanic worms that like eat the blood out of your dick. They're not like earthworms.
It gets that
you got like 38 teeth in a little circle.
I want to get back to our main topic, though. I want to expand that idea, really, from what's happened in Uvalde to a wider issue, because we talked about GOP election boards. We talked about these local entities trying to be anti-democratic, little d, not big D.
Right.
Just
democratic like in the format of government,
just like your conservative uncle, just like your conservative Uncle Willis, little d, not big D.
Hey, all right.
There is, Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had an interesting statement on his idea of rural living.
This ought to be good.
Yeah, I know. It's really interesting because Sherlock Holmes commented that he in one of the books, he seems visibly distressed by being in the countryside. And Watson asked him why. He's like, in a city, everyone's watching everyone else. In a community, everyone's watching. In a community like that, everyone's watching everyone else. But he said, no one knows what sort of wretched, vile thing happens in the side gardens of rural England.
God damn, that's rich. That is so spot on. And as a kid that grew up in goddamn Murfreesboro, Tennessee, that is so true. And honestly, like, that county just got over that exact fucking shit with that fucking demon bitch of a judge in the juvenile court that finally got run off. But nobody noticed for decades that her Satan adjacent ass was locking up kids for basically nothing.
And this is one of the things that's
so accurate. God damn
this is one of the things that makes me pissed off about that we still keep on playing this game about, I have my town council, my neighborhood council, and then my county, whatever. the problem is that we keep on running into is we keep and conservatives love this, right?
Oh
They
yeah,
love resting their laurels on rural governments.
local government. Yeah,
And unless
states rights, county
unless your
rights.
local government has more than 1 million people, at which point it's entirely Sodom and Gomorrah and it's Satan, etc.
Right, right. Well,
Um,
Nashville doesn't have more than 1 million. Nashville's been over 500,000 for well long enough. But
no,
Nashville,
we've now hit 750 official.
well, yeah, but that's not 1 million.
Well, but if you count people who are not officially here, we're probably close to
Okay,
about
Greater Metro is like 1.3. I'll give you that. But you know what? My first answer for those motherfuckers, usually in social media comments, are you in the city limits? Do you pay the taxes? Fuck off then.
Oh no, that was one of my best job interview killers ever. Is when the guy was like, "Oh, I'm a native Nashvilleian too." I'm like, "Oh, what neighborhood?" By the way, if you're a native Nashvilleian and you want to shut down, or if you ever want to ask someone who claims to be a native Nashvilleian, and you want to shut them down the fuck hard, you ask them what fucking neighborhood.
That's a good point. You know,
like what neighborhood did you grow up in?
I have an extra
Did you grow
chip
up in
on
Green Hills? Did you grow up in Woodmont? Did you grow up in Forest Hills, Oak Hills? Did you grow up in East Side? Did you grow up in were you out over like towards Edge Hill?
I have
Were
an
you in
extra
Madison?
I have an extra layer of vinegar and lemon juice up here because we have a city income tax. So whenever one of these shitcocks from outside the city limits starts to get mouthy on a news post on Facebook up here, one of my first statements to them is, I checked your profile. You don't live in the city of Grand Rapids, so nobody gives a shit what you've got to say.
Again, I love it when people from like the ultimate shutdown is this as a native Nashvilleian. When someone says, I grew up in Franklin, I'm like, you need to shut the fuck up now. Right the fuck now. Literally, like it was your job, you need to shut the fuck up. Because you and me both know that there is only the slightest bit of hesitation that prevents me from somehow finding the gumption and the ammunition to go burn down your whole fucking village.
I find it fascinating that Olivia in the New England vicinity is asked about Graceland, though with the upcoming Elvis movie this week, that will only get worse. But I am 100% here for that movie. If you haven't checked out the trailers and you haven't watched the interviews,
by the way, Graceland is in Memphis. I want to point that out, and most of us have never ever been there because it's in Memphis.
Fuck you! I've worked for two companies that were dual city companies, Nashville and Memphis, and I rather enjoy Memphis. And I've been in Memphis.
No. Memphis is great, but the only problem is it's 4 hours away.
3. It's 3 traffic. If you're a granny. It's like 2.5 or 2 if you step on it. So it's not 4. Atlanta is 4. Jesus.
It's also the most boring drive ever. Come on.
It is the most boring drive ever, except it has some of the best city names, including one of your favorite references here on the show, Lower Bucksnort, because Bucksnort is an actual place.
No, actually, my favorite city name is Dancyville.
Who?
It's on the way to Memphis. Dancyville.
Nancyville?
Dancyville.
Dancyville?
Yeah.
Like, what? I've never seen that.
Dancyville.
I've seen a lot of shit, but I've never seen that sign. Okay. You know, my favorite highway game to play for a while was how many city names did Kentucky steal from Tennessee? Because if you travel to Lexington, basically it's nothing but Tennessee city names on all the signs. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are coming up on our limit. We are gonna go ahead and wrap this up.
We've been so off topic on this, but we do need to finish up just a little bit on this idea of local government needs to be responsive to its people. But on top of, more importantly to that, is the idea that we have to have some idea, some control over local government. And right now we have a lot of Republicans shoving a lot of things down our faces.
Oh yeah,
to try and control local government, local school boards, local election boards. and none of it makes a damn bit of sense, and none of it is good for your community. None of it is logical for your community. It is entirely made up of some unicorn idea of if only we're in charge, all this.
Yeah. Tonight I closed my remarks talking about police issues and the shooting of the murder of Patrick Lyoya here.
No.
I told that room, your addressing of these issues needs to be swift, brutal, and decisive. Peacetime approaches will not suffice.
Oh, damn.
Changing all this is going to require a lot more guts than we have seen from this city's government so far. And that's the thing that I don't think these cities understand. They are way out of their depth. Nashville is way out of its depth, and it's one of the reasons I left. And now I'm up here looking at these leaders, realizing they're out of their depth, and they don't even have a fucking idea that they're out of their depth. And they admit that they've just been trying to figure out how to weather this issue as a completely new experience. And they just are too fucking stubborn and too fucking close-minded. And up here we have the problem of too fucking West Michigan nice to goddamn deal with hard shit. And I think that's really what you're seeing in Uvalde. And anywhere that's challenged is these fucking yokels drew the short straw of being in office for COVID and Black Lives Matter and the good parts of woke that we should all be honoring, and they don't have any goddamn clue how to deal with it.
The good parts of woke. I like.
I mean, I had to qualify it at this point. Anyway, we got to run out of here.
We are definitely running up on time. We should have been. We tried to aim for an hour 30 minutes, but unfortunately, we're loquacious sons of bitches who
it's an hour and a half, but 2 hours is the limit based on a ton of research. So right. We'll take it, but we try not to exceed 2. So we appreciate everybody hanging out. Thanks for joining us. Of course, do all the things with all the stuff. We appreciate you spreading the word. We do have the stats. We do know that some of you sneak in after the fact and you never say a word, and that's cool. We're glad that you're here. If you hate our guts or you love everything that we say, we're glad that you're here. And thank you for supporting our part therapy, part hobby, part civil fucking duty, and part love of beer. And with that, we will say, as always, good night.
Good evening.
And good luck.